and welcome to Doctorpiece Theater. My name is Dr. Dennis Business, and tonight we're going to continue our dive into the last of the unholy trinity, Reaper's Creek. When we last left our hero, he left a cryptic message that said he had found a new power on the playground and that it ruined some people's lives. I guess. Chapter 11. Awake. Months passed. I was lying in bed, looking at the wood poles bracing the top of my ceiling. Why was I alive? Why were any of us alive? Why was my existence surrounded by death? Why was I given the ability to know automatically when death was near me? A few weeks back, a teacher had a heart attack in the middle of class. No students were being noisy or anything. Many people act like you only get heart attacks when someone surprises you or when you're exercising. Mr. Lucas died right in front of his 5th grade class, and he wasn't even standing up. Just died in his chair, and it took the class around half an hour to notice. Across the building, I felt him die. The absence of warmth haunted me many walls away. I could even tell you what his soul looked like if I closed my eyes. Yellow. It glowed. It was hollow on the inside. It had a tail, like a neon sea creature, if anything. "Daniel, turn out your light!" my mom shouted from the front room. I was so sick of being tormented by things beyond most anyone's comprehension, let alone the fact that I'm just a kid. How am I supposed to be functional, even remotely sane, in an environment that seemingly consistently reminds me of the worst part of life? One that throws it in my face even if I run. What happens if I go to sleep? I get abducted again? "Mom, I'll turn off the light in a minute," I yelled back. My mother wasn't interested in anything but absolute compliance. Her constant working, dealing with the people she encountered every day, it made her headstrong, unwilling to budge for anyone, especially me. "You go to bed now, or you'll be in trouble," my mom hollered back. I replied, "Oh, what are you gonna do?" And my mom immediately slapped her belt against my door. As the belt impacted, I could hear the crisp wooden door creak, as if it had been dented from the outside. I screamed again. "So you're gonna hit me? Go ahead, Mom. Then beat me. I don't care. I just want the light to be on. Leave me." As I screamed, I heard a subtle noise. I don't even know how to describe. I stopped speaking altogether. After a few seconds of silence, I heard my mom scream in the most horrified voice I have ever endured. "Call the hospital! Oh God, please!" my mom desperately moaned. I jumped down the ladder off my bunk bed and opened the door. Blood was flicked on my chin and neck as my mom spun around, clutching her eyes. Both her hands were firmly locked on her face, as I could see blood gushing through her fingers. Daniel, my mom stuttered, and then collapsed, smacking her head against our kitchen counter just outside my bedroom door. I dropped to my knees and began screaming, "Mom! What happened? What did you do?" She had to have put something in her eyes. I couldn't see through the door. I had no idea what was going on. My sister and Papa were now closely crouching behind me. My Papa had a phone in his hand and was dialing for help. Desperate to know what happened to my mom's eyes, I slowly put both my hands on her and began to pull them away from her face. Even in her fall, she had a death grip on her own cheeks, the bridge of her nose and eyebrows. But as I applied pressure away, it was like her muscles relaxed and willingly moved with the intentions of my mind. Initially, my mother's eyelids were caved in, as if her eyes had melted in her head. But I didn't see this until I had begun manually turning her unconscious head towards me. Right before me, I saw her eye sockets appear to be almost entirely empty. I also witnessed them once again filling, revealing blood-covered, but fully restored green eyes. My mother was immediately conscious and blinking the blood out of her eyes. She was calm and smiled as soon as she realized we were all around her. Papa was speechless, and Joanna, with tears in her eyes, screamed, "What was that? That's impossible! What is going on? Why? What?" I looked back at Joanna, equally horrified by what had just happened. As my mom continued to smile, she stood up, and Papa proceeded to tell the emergency operator to send someone out regardless of the development, as none of us had any idea what was going on. By the time the first responders showed up, my mom had wiped off all the blood, put on makeup, and cleaned up the house. We were out in the middle of nowhere after all. She had time, I guess. The ambulance drivers looked over my mom and concluded we were all genuinely insane. My mom was honest with them about what happened, but her constant smiling didn't help any of us appearing less crazy. At about 4 a.m., I finally got to sleep, and by 6:45 a.m., I was off to school. Papa said I could stay home, but I didn't want to be anywhere near that house for a while. I didn't talk to anyone till lunchtime came around. David came up to me when I was eating to apologize for being distant from me again, but I wasn't in the mood and screamed at him to go away. I continued to eat my mashed potatoes and chicken nuggets alone, a 12-seat table, sitting by myself. I would dip the chicken nuggets in the mashed potatoes, scoop some of the potatoes up to my mouth with the nuggets, eat and repeat. Sometimes when I got thirsty, I would just drink my chocolate milk and think about how much I hated everyone at this point. "Nice to finally meet you with the lights on, Daniel," a voice said, coming from the corner of my right eye. Refusing to look at them, I replied, "Piss off." I could hear them chuckling under their breath. They continued, "You did the same thing to me that you did to your mom last night. I would be mad, but I did that to someone when I was younger too, so I understand." I was frozen. Was I dreaming? What sociopath nutjob was talking to me? Why would they? How would they know? I screamed, "What?" as I aggressively looked up at them. It was the special ed kid. A voice came from the side of the cafeteria from the faculty member who originally pulled me off Philip when I was punching his face in. "Calm down, Daniel. I will take you right back to the principal." A few kids laughed, then went back to eating. The special ed kid sat down. "So, I just thought you should know I'm here, even under this metal roof," the freckled boy said as he pointed up to the ceiling of the school. He continued, "Can I have your apple?" as he reached out and snatched it off my tray. I remained frozen with complete tunnel vision. The boy said, "Look, I can tell you're in shock, and we can talk more after. He chomped into my apple, eating relatively normal, as if he was actually human. As I continued my horrified gaze, the boy asked, "Did you want me to take care of anyone, by the way? Your drunk uncle? Your snobby sister? I can put quite the scare in some people. Not you, though. Not on the ship, at least." I was done looking at him. I saw a glint in his eyes that haunted me to my core. I mumbled under my breath, "Please go away." Then I looked up. He was still there. He chimed in, "Oh, sorry, yes." The boy bit another chunk of the apple off and stood up to walk away. He was about 20 feet away before I realized I peed myself. Without hesitating, I grabbed my chocolate milk and dumped it into my lap. Damn it! I spilled my milk! I screamed in attempt to hide the fact that I was not trying to cry. I grabbed napkins to clean up what I had now masked as a milk spill, and the lunch bell rang, ending our meal break. Everyone walked away as if nothing had happened, except for me. Chapter 12. Imposters. I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want the dreams. I don't want this creature following me around wherever I go. I'm not an idiot. It played all its cards on the table when it approached me last week. Every day at school since has been torture for me. I would see it looking at me nonstop at lunch, watching for me at recess. And why? Because of the metal roof on the school? Laying here in bed, thinking about all this, worried it might take me in my sleep again, simply because my roof is mostly just tar and wood. But if it can't see me when I'm under metal, if it can't take me, jumping up, I walked nervously into the kitchen. I grabbed a pot and a long strand of aluminum foil. I walked back to my bed with the pot and the foil, climbing up my ladder cautiously so I did not drop either. There. Now I'm safe. The pot on my head, the foil wrapped around my entire body. They can't take me, right? Drifting off to sleep was difficult. Every move, I made a crunch or a crinkle sound, attempting to wake me. But I was safe. I hoped I was. Suddenly everything felt warm. Tall grass surrounded me. A woman stood across from me in a field. From the back, she looked like my teacher. She turned around. No, she was beautiful. She had perfect breasts. Her brunette hair flowed over her naked chest. She was calling my name. Daniel, I want you to be with me, the naked woman said as she began to approach me in the grass. Smiling uncomfortably, I replied, "Hi." Smiling uncomfortably, I replied, "Hi, who are you?" Immediately, the woman reached down and began touching herself as she continued to walk across the field towards me. "Be with me, Daniel," she said again. A warm breeze flowed through my hair. The sunlight in the background gleamed off her perfectly toned skin. She now stood right in front of me, reached her hand out, as I only stared at her crotch, wondering what or who I was even looking at. Gently she put her hand under my chin and brought my eyes up to hers. "I love you, Daniel. Kiss me," she said. Leaning forward, our lips connected as her hands began running up and down my body. "Daniel!" she said. "Daniel!" she screamed. "Daniel, come out here now!" she screamed, even louder as her face turned gray and her eyes turned black. Jumping out of my rest with the pot spinning around my head from the momentum, I heard it in real life. "Daniel, I sacrificed everything for you! Stop making this difficult!" the voice screamed. Keeping the aluminum foil around my body and the pot on my head, I slid over to the wall and began to look at my window. It was the Gray. The alien in the special ed boy's body. His eyes kept blinking from human to black. He was staring right back at me through my tiny square wooden-framed bedroom window. "Take the pot off your head, Daniel," screamed the alien again. A drop of sweat slid down the side of my face. The aluminum foil isolating my body heat and my nerves combined began to trigger claustrophobia. I had no idea how to react. "You need to take that pot off your head." "I'm trying to help you. It'll stop me, but it won't stop them." Still having no idea what to do, I reacted on instinct and ripped off a piece of aluminum, jamming it in the edges behind my window frame till I could no longer see the alien. I heard my papa scream to the outside through my sister's window, "Hey, freak! Get off my property or I'm calling the cops!" Immediately, a deafening silence consumed my ears. A silent rumble began to shake my bed. I looked up, and before my eyes, even the wood ceiling began to warp. It was bending outward, groaning under the strength of whatever was pulling it upward. Screaming in terror, I slammed my hands over my ears as the unnatural, deep, and bone-shaking sounds vibrated through my room. With little resistance, a massive section of my roof was ripped off. I kept my eyes open. My screams of terror turned into screams of rage. Despite my entire body being consumed with anger, I was unsympathetically torn from my bed, the pot falling off my head and the aluminum foil now dangling to my side briefly, till it began twisting, eventually falling off of me, slowly drifting to the roof of my house. I screamed angrily again, but felt so powerless. This invisible beam was pulling me forcefully away from the world I knew. To my left, I saw a spark bounce off of the large coal-textured ship. Anther spark. I couldn't hear anything but the beaming deep noise of whatever was pulling me in. But I could look down, and there was my papa. He had his rifle and was shooting at the ship. His mouth was moving. He was crying. I couldn't tell what he was saying, but as his tears fell, and he raised his gun again to fire once more, my vision went black. I was gone. The ship was gone. We were all lost to the world again. As I woke, I could see my right arm was missing. I was standing vertically, but not of my own power. I was in the dark room with seemingly no walls. Black tubes were packed into the stump where my arm used to be. I felt fine. I felt at peace. One of the tubes, no doubt, was drugging me to feel this way. There were 3 aliens now. One of them was seemingly trying to remove something from my arm, which was hovering in the air next to them. Hours passed, and they performed numerous procedures on me. Most of them seemed to be extractions, as if they were trying to undo what someone else had done to me. The tubes were removed from my body, but I didn't bleed. I wasn't sure why. The aliens reattached my limbs, and then I was gone again, lost in the lack of consciousness, lost in the dark emptiness. I woke up to see a bird looking down at me. the bright blue sky beaming through the hole in my ceiling. The bird tilted its head at me, then flew away. I was in my bed, but the damage that had been done the night prior was all still there. I could hear my mom crying in the other room. I could hear the chatter of the other women and men in my home. Slowly, I climbed down the ladder. My arm hurt a little, but so did the rest of my body. The front room had 3 police officers in it, as well as my sisters, Mama, and Papa. I stood there for a moment, rubbing my eyes as they all continued to talk to one another. Joanna screamed, "Daniel!" and immediately ran over to me. My mom let out a painful gasp and ran over to me as well. Before I knew it, everyone was hugging me at once. It was nice to know that I would be missed if I ever left for good at 11. One of the officers spoke up. "Ma'am, you say your eyes exploded out of your head the other day? We show up, your eyes are fine. You say your kid is taken by aliens the other day. Your kid is right there. Can you explain, please?" My papa stopped hugging me and turned to the officer. He said, "Listen, we'll handle this. I'm sorry for any inconvenience." The officer replied, "We're probably going to have child services pay you a visit. This seems like an unstable home, both mentally, with the mom, has a thing physically with whatever you did to the roof." My mom hugged me harder when she heard the officer say that. My papa said, "Thank you for your help on this, officer. I'm sorry we called." Right after the police left, my papa said, "Wow, you call the cops to protect your kid and they threaten to take your kids." Right after the police left, my papa said, "Wow, you call the cops to protect your kid and they threaten to take your kid." I think we all knew, if something came up in the future, the cops wouldn't be involved. A week passed since the incident. I was in the bathroom at school, using a urinal. A voice I never wanted to hear again resonated through my ears. "I need to give you back what they took, Daniel. I'm not done with you." I felt a pinch in the back of my neck. My head smacked against the yellow tiled wall. I was gone. I wish I was gone. Gone away from this book. Chapter 13. Julia's Glow. It was summer. I was with my dad in Ohio. We had just arrived at a cabin in the woods by a lake. There was a girl there. Her name was Julia. She had long, curly brown hair. She had a smile that lit up the room and a look in her eye that felt like a beam of energy shooting through me whenever we made eye contact. I was 5'10", despite being so young. She was about 5'1", despite being 4 years older than me. We were listening to Sugar Ray on the radio, standing out on a beautiful deck, looking into the woods. She made me feel good about myself. The subtle touches of my shoulder, my hand, her giggling after every other thing I said. I was lucky to have someone distract me from the last couple months of my life. A flashback thought crossed my mind. The boy in the bathroom. He must have injected me with something. Done something to me. I woke up, sitting in the corner of the bathroom. A janitor was shaking me. The female principal wouldn't come in the bathroom, and he was the only option. He smelled like alcohol. Shaking out of my thoughts, Julie and I decided to play darts. She tried, but I won with little experience. "Good job, Daniel. You're a natural," she said. I replied, "Thank you for letting me win." She laughed. She was so cute. Wearing jean shorts, a yellow spaghetti strap top, a thin metal necklace around her neck. I was entranced by her. At 11. Every week, Julie and I would see each other at church. My father was part of a very small gathering he sometimes preached at. There were about 15 members, and we were all pretty closely involved. Having dinner parties at each other's houses, going out to eat after every day of church. It often felt like none of us were really there for God, but just to have friends, to have a social life. God was just the guilt that made us responsible enough to show up every week. One day, we were all praying in a circle in church. Someone was praying about how their really old grandpa got cancer, and they asked God to save him. 2 weeks later, the same person would be there, saying they understood why God let their grandpa die. But my question is, if God didn't want him to get cancer, why did he get cancer in the first place? So what is the point in praying about it? A lot of times, when we would pray in a circle, Julie and I would try to hold each other's hands. Because of my skepticism, I would often have a hard time not laughing when someone would ask God for something really stupid. Julie was more respectful than me. She would squeeze my hand the moment she detected I was about to laugh, and that would help prevent me from losing it. My dad only got to see me during the summers while my papa was out fishing in Alaska. My mom left my dad because he was accused by her 2 sisters and her own child of being inappropriate to an illegal extent towards them. Holy fuck you, dude. You're a fucking dick. My dad only got to see me during the summers while my papa was out fishing in Alaska. My mom left my dad because he was accused by her 2 sisters and her own child of being inappropriate to an illegal extent towards them. Maybe that is why he resorted to religion so strongly, to make sense of his own sins, to try and accept himself despite what a monster my family members accused him of being. So one day my dad decided to go over to Julie's parents' house after church. The majority of the church followed. There was a silly little pond outside Julie's house, and she asked if I wanted to go out on a paddle boat with her and a friend of both of ours, Michael. Michael decided to bring a fishing pole for the pond, and pretty quickly caught what looked like a catfish. "Oh my gosh," Michael said. "This is so gross." Julie paddled back to shore with me, Michael in the back of the boat, and immediately her dad said we needed to let it go. I replied, "We're not going to eat it?" And her dad said, "No, it's too small." I was confused as the fish was clearly wounded, and putting it back, well, it just seemed wasteful considering we half killed it by catching it, and now it was going to die anyway, uneaten. As if it was all pointless. It's not what fishing is. We played in the pond a little longer till I said something to Julie. Michael had made a joke about he thought Julie liked me, and I replied with, "I hope so." Julie reacted by pushing me into the water, and we all laughed. I laughed last, thanks to me needing to catch my breath. Julie promptly suggested I wash off now that I was covered in pond water. So the 3 of us walked over to her neighbor's house, which was twice as big as hers, much newer, and unoccupied as the neighbors were on vacation. Julie promptly suggested I wash off now that I was covered in pond water, so the 3 of us walked over to her neighbor's house, which was twice as big as hers, much newer and unoccupied as the neighbors were on vacation. I was about to hop in the shower. Uh-oh. Julie was the only one in the room with me. Michael was in the music room of the mansion, strumming away on a guitar and singing funny lyrics like, "Don't eat the fish, it'll little bitty fish, I think the meat would be so bland." Julie looked at me with a smile, clearly not ready to leave the room so I could shower. I said, "Well, I'm gonna hop in." Julie replied, "Want me to join you?" My heart fluttered. Then I laughed awkwardly and said, You want to shower with me?" She laughed and said, "Don't be too long," as she walked out of the room. I blew it. She would have probably showered with me. Why did I say that? Why didn't I just say, "Yes, please, thank you"? Or, at the very least, "I would really like that." The warm water felt incredible. Oh, Jesus, no. But I couldn't help being upset with myself. I thought about what it would be like if she was in the shower with me. No. Would she have taken her swimsuit and shorts off? Would we have kissed? Before it was time for me to return home to Washington State, we had one more cabin trip to go on with a few church members. Michael was there, so were one of my sisters, and Michael's sister. Julie, most importantly, remained close to me the entire first day of us being there. All the kids were to sleep upstairs in sleeping bags in a big carpeted room of the cabin. It consumed the entire upper floor. Julie was staring at me from her sleeping bag for most of the time the lights remained on in the cabin. She was smiling every time I looked at her, and I would smile back upon seeing this. There was a pillow between her sleeping bag and mine. She had put her hand under the pillow in a way that only made sense if she was reaching out to me. So I reached my hand out and held hers. No one else in the room had any idea. After a short while, the lights went out, and that's when Julie began moving towards me, slipping her body inside of my sleeping bag. She immediately began kissing me, and I kissed her back just as aggressively. I had never kissed a girl before this moment, but it seemed like I was doing everything right. Fuck. With one hand, I unbuttoned her shorts and slipped my hand into her underwear. This again was the first time I had ever touched someone like this. Julie, now on top of me, began breathing heavily as my fingers moved in and out of her. She continued to kiss me and began to grind on me as well. After 20 minutes of one of the best moments of my life to date, she buttoned her shorts back up and kissed me goodnight. I was glowing, and not to my knowledge. At the time, it wasn't even over. The next morning, Julie and I were the first two people to wake up in the house. I found her sitting on the couch downstairs, and realizing we were all alone, we again threw ourselves at each other in exactly the same way we had last night, only now on the couch in the cabin front room. The fabric of the couch had a purple base color and a design paying tribute to the natives of America. I ran my hand up and down her legs. I pulled her body as close to me as I could. I tried to make her feel loved and blissful as I knew how. She seemed so happy. "Good morning," my dad's voice boomed from a back room. Julie quickly sat up while zipping up her pants. I slowly reacted with a smile and a good morning back. I could see Julie was beaming. It was sad I had to go home soon. Back to that bedroom, back to that school. But my mom had custody, and the only reason I wanted to stay was the thought of a beautiful girl who would probably be embarrassed to ever publicly date me, considering our age gap. The plan ride home was a cold one. One more time. The plan ride home was a cold one.
I gotta hit this book!
Chapter 14. No more. Excuse me. A voice came from beyond the darkness created by my own eyes. I opened them. Hello, said the flight attendant, standing next to my seat aisle. I replied, Oh. Hi, Did I do something? She laughed and answered, No, I was just wondering why you didn't impregnate Julia. I was wide awake now. No words. I had no ability to talk. The flight attendant continues. Was she everything you wanted? Shame about her being so far away now. I wonder if she'll sleep with Michael next. I couldn't even look at her. My eyes were fixated on the drop-down tray in front of me. I heard a familiar voice laugh near first class. The flight attendant dusted off her vest and walked away as if she didn't just say anything mortifying to me at all. The laugh in the distance continued. But I was so deep in my thoughts, so physically numb, I couldn't do anything but remain still, almost as if I was in shock. Paralyzed. While brief, that woman attacked my most vulnerable place and turned me upside down as if I was nothing. By the time the plane landed, I had mostly recovered. I had high anxiety about the laughter I heard, while the flight attendant harassed me. Whoever it was no doubt be gone by the time I got to the front, as first class always leaves the plane first. The plane was a cluttered mess as we tried to get off, a typical routine. Everyone crushed together in the long aluminum can, trying to gather their shame-covering cloths packed in their nearly identical zipper bags, smacking each other clumsily as they removed said storage containers from the overhead bins. Upper body strength escapes so many of us. Walking forward, I could see all the seats within my line of sight were empty. It was a relief. Just before getting off the plane, I noticed one of the first-class bathrooms were open. I could only see the lights surrounding a mirror inside. Upon the reflection sat a face, smiling at me. The moment I recognized who it was, I ran. Laughter from the bathroom exploded after my first few steps, then faded as I got away from the boy, the alien, whoever he really was. It seemed every time I was around a metal roof or housing, he had to follow me. I came to a complete stop just before stumbling through the exit of my gate. I don't want to live like this. I don't want to keep running. I don't want to keep getting abducted or drugged. Taking a deep breath, I walked back on the plane, ignoring the looks people were giving me as I passed them. I had pushed half these people out of the way in my earlier sprint. Now I'm pushing past them again. I felt rude, but my anger made me blind to caring whatsoever. The boy from special ed class didn't expect me to return. He was still chuckling to himself in the bathroom. The flight attendant who harassed me earlier said, "Oh, excuse me," clearly confused and conflicted by my return to the plane. Without hesitation, I grabbed a fork from the flight attendant food distribution cart and planted it as deep as I could into the neck of the special ed boy. One time. As soon as the fork went completely in, piercing the bones in his spine, his eyes went black. He had a look of absolute shock and terror, as if he was a sibling just playing pranks and someone just snapped. But this boy was not my sibling. This boy was not even human. Immediately behind me, I heard a loud smack. It was the flight attendant. She had fallen, her head colliding with the metal cart I just grabbed a fork from. Maybe he was controlling her telepathically? Or maybe I was a nut job, and this was all a hallucination. Either way, I didn't want to be around to explain any of this. As the other airline staff members crowded around the fallen woman, I looked back to see the alien's human skin facade melting away. How stupid. There was no disguise, no failsafe. What began to show itself was just a smaller version of the aliens I encountered in my dreams. Now I definitely had to get out of here. Walking away quickly, but not in a manner that implied I was guilty of anything, like murder, I made my way to the baggage claim relatively fast. My sister was already there. As soon as she saw me, she yelled, "What took you so long, dork?" I didn't reply. Shortly after, my mom showed up and drove us home. She just talked about how much she missed us. She also made a joke about her eyes not exploding in a while, which was not even remotely funny, considering what I had just gone through. It's easy to laugh at past pain. It's impossible to genuinely laugh if the pain is ongoing. For me, at least. Being in my old foam bed was incredible. Next to the hum of the furnace, the washer and dryer actively cleaning the clothes we hadn't washed before we packed to come home. The noise, it drowned out my thoughts of the hopefully dead alien that stalked me wherever I went, and the horrible way I felt when the flight attendant dug right into my most intimate experience ever. Stabbing that freak in the neck, however, that was therapy. That was me dealing with the endless times I had been tortured on that craft. The endless harassment I endured and my vengeance for whatever they did to me. With the familiar ambient noise, I began to fall asleep. But before I was even completely unconscious, I was already on another ship again. They could have taken me at any point during the summer, but here I was, all of a sudden the center of attention. I was frozen in place, vertically positioned as usual. This time, someone who looked human walked forward. He reminded me of Agent Smith from the Matrix movies. Only with black hair and a head that wasn't completely oversized for his body. His voice was different too. Almost what you would expect from a New York businessman. You killed him, and we thank you for that. We have questions, however. What did he do to you before he went to your dad's house? What did he say to the... "No more!" I screamed, interrupting him. "I will not tolerate any of you anymore!" I screamed even louder. So much rage shot out of me. The loudness of my voice visibly disturbed the man before me. I screamed again, "I will see you die! All of you die!" This time around, half of the man's face was torn off by my screams. Noises I had never heard came from his chest as if that was the true origin of his words. I was released and began walking towards the man with the now half face. "I said die! Die!" The remainder of his head exploded. Out of the darkness came aliens in their natural form. They were bigger than me, but somehow I changed that. Immediately I grew. The aliens now beneath me, and I screamed again as they tried to approach me from multiple sides, like human animal control trying to capture a beast with rabies. "You will die, all of you! I hate you all! Die, all of you!" 2 more heads exploded until I was ejected from the spacecraft. Free falling again. It felt so familiar. Like I was having a flashback to the other time I had to witness my removal from the craft. Only I didn't want to fall soundly to my bed like before. They would just come back, do more tests on me, or at the very least, try to answer the questions they asked earlier. What did that boy do to me? As I continued to plummet towards the earth, I tried numerous ways of flying. The Superman position, with one fist above me towards space. The Iron Man pose with my feet. The Iron Man pose with my the Iron Man pose with my hands, feet pointing down as if jets were coming out of them. I even tried flapping my arms furiously. None of it worked, until I simply focused. I told myself I would not fall. I let go of my weight mentally and emotionally. I told myself I can travel at the speed of light. I felt energy rising up within me. I began to fall, in reverse. Seconds passed, and I was back on the ship. The aliens were panicking. Their screams sounded just like the boys did on the plane when I stabbed him. I screamed again, and 2 more aliens died. Only I quickly realized it wasn't my scream that was ending their lives, it was my mind. Simply focusing on my rage would end them, it was his breath. The more I killed, the more I remembered that boy digging around my head in the bathroom at my elementary school. I saw him, as if I was watching above my body. There was something in my head, something black that had a glow to it. I could see he was not adding something new to my body. Instead, he was removing things that looked like implants the other aliens gave me. The more I saw him working on me, the more I realized I had killed someone who was just protecting me. That's why he looked at me with shock in such a way that almost seemed like his feelings were hurt. Like he just saw his own pet die right in front of him. When I planted that fork in his neck, I saw remorse. These astral memories swelled in my mind as I slaughtered the aliens that rejected him. The aliens that boy fought to protect me from. I could feel many of the aliens still on board. Still alive. I felt them in my chest. Killing, like everything else, gets boring after a while. My rage had died. It was too easy. They kept trying to eject me like before, but a warm wave hitting a massive wall of pure obsidian. But like a warm wave hitting a massive wall of pure obsidian, it had no effect against my newfound astral control. I wanted to go home. The ship was now deep in space. I also wanted everyone on board to die. And quickly. I visualized a bomb in the center of the ship. A bomb that could consume everything within 10,000 yards. And crush it like a tin can under a cement truck. In an instant, everything around me was pulled away, yet I remained in place. I could see alien heads turned to paste. I could feel the walls that did not even exist before my eyes bending and crunching. I could hear alien blood shooting out of every hole in their bodies. Under my own will, I shot off back towards Earth, back towards my bed, back towards the hum of the furnace, to wake up tomorrow as if none of this happened. Good morning, good morning, good morning. We're happy, so happy. Good morning to you, my mom sang. Good morning, Mom, I said. That was chapters 11, 12, 13, and 14 of Reaper's Creek. Just don't really have anything else to say other than, did Daniel get raped at his cabin? I think he might have got raped in the morning too. And by the aliens. But anyway, this has been Doctorpiece Theater, and my name is Dr. Dennis Business. And as always, my friends,